Welcome to the Bald Truth Leadership Podcast, where you get straightforward, no-nonsense ideas on leadership and growth, both personally and professionally. It's brought to you by the Chief Coaching Officer of the Peak Performance Group. He's also a brilliant and successful serial entrepreneur. He's a two-time author. He's a certified executive coach. He's a sales genius. He's bald.
Hey now.
And he's your host of the Bald Truth Leadership Podcast. Buckle your chin strap. Here's your host, Coach Rick Colster.
Hey, welcome all. I'm Coach Rick. Remember to like and subscribe to the Bald Truth. Got to get that subscriber numbers up, folks. Today, we're going to flip things around a little bit. And rather than talk about being a great leader, we're going to talk about hiring a great leader. How can you find that next great leader in your organization? Our guest today is an expert in the field of finding and recruiting top talent. She is absolutely amazing, brilliant, and she's also a certified coach. I'll give her that. But her daytime job, the thing she does best, is she's a director of recruiting for VIP, an executive search and talent recruiting and staffing company here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. She's been in the executive search and talent acquisition industry for 8-10 years, and prior to that was an executive herself as for a company here in DFW as a CFO. Today, she and I are going to talk about what it takes to find great leaders for your organization and to help you grow and flourish. So let's welcome Casey Hasten of VIP to the Bald Truth. Casey, welcome to the Bald Truth.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to talk about flipping the tables. You were a guest on my podcast, gosh, a long time ago. And so it's a real honor to be here and support your podcast as well.
Well, I appreciate you being on. I just love your area of expertise because we talk about leadership here on the Bald Truth all the time. What does it take to be a leader? And I don't want to make light of it at all, but really, you got to find those people first. Mm-hmm. You've got to figure out where they are and then get them in, and then you can nurture them even more, take those talents they have and expand on them. But finding it is it. And we look at, here at the Bald Truth, we look at all facets of business, life. With everything happening in our world today, I got to believe that great leaders are critical for any business success. What do you think?
I could not agree more. And one of the things that I've really seen throughout the pandemic, let's just call it what it is, right, is that how the leaders show up in different organizations. And I'm going to give you an example of one that didn't work out so well, just so that you kind of have that contrast. So I was working with an organization and I'd been working with them for years, right? And I can tell you it was in the restaurant business. I won't tell you who it was, but it was so interesting. So their accounting department was so well established and had been there for so long. So you'd think the leadership was just awesome, right? These people were staying 10, 15, 20 years. Pandemic hits. Leadership made a horrible call. And what they did, because obviously the restaurants were probably hit the hardest during the pandemic.
Oh yeah, they got crushed. Yeah,
they cut everybody's salaries in half except the C-levels.
Oh, wow.
C-levels kept 100% of their salary. You know what happened?
I'm thinking mass exodus.
Mass. Everybody left.
Well, that doesn't show any type of servant leadership model. We teach the servant leadership model at the Peak Performance Group. That's what we do. And it's the first thing I should have done is those execs should have cut their salary and tried to keep their people on. That would make more sense. It's that upside down pyramid. Mm-hmm. It's not the standard pyramid where the boss is at the top and he gets everybody reports to them. It's the boss should be taking care of the rest of the people. Flip that pyramid.
Yeah. So and
what happened there? What happened
with that company?
Yeah. So what's the outcome? We know they all left. What are they doing?
They all left. They have actually, I believe, filed bankruptcy. I don't have anybody on the inside anymore, so I don't really know what's going on. So everybody left that I talked to. But on the flip side of that, another company that I work with, they have a flight department. And during the pandemic, because it was a private flight department, they didn't fly. 6 months, their pilots didn't fly. Didn't cut a single salary and didn't furlough a single pilot.
See, we've been running, these are unprecedented times. It's crazy what's happening. We know that. And I've got a client, and the beauty of it is he's kind of happy. Their business continues to go, healthcare system. And so they need their software company. So they need to keep that up and running. But he also realized his sales guys couldn't get out and they couldn't travel. So entertainment, travel, his marketing budget, there was no reason to market because there's no reason to get out. And so his marketing budget was down and he had all this dollars budgeted. So he just kept his people on. And they cut to every other day, like 2 or 3 days a week. They're off on Fridays. So, and he allows people from work, work from home. So I think that's a true, just number one, and what a real leader is all about is taking care of their people.
Absolutely. And I can give you a third example. And this is one that I know personally because I work for this company. And VIP has been amazing throughout this pandemic. And so just keeping everybody in touch. I mean, we would do virtual happy hours once a week during the lockdown. And
Well, that's always fun.
Yeah, it was fun because you still get to see your people.
I'm having a virtual happy hour right now.
You still get to see your people, but they did so much. And like, I think because they were doing so many things right, our business continued to grow. We hired 4 people during the shutdown in recruiting when unemployment was at an all-time high.
Yeah.
That's incredible. And that's the kind of company I want to work for. That
leads me to something. So you transitioned from a CFO and executive to a recruiter. And I mentioned that in your intro a little bit, that you help companies find and retain top talent. Mm-hmm. What we're seeing now is in the pandemic, and I'm starting to hear rumblings right now throughout my client, throughout my network, that some of the next generation, the current generation, want to be the former generation. They're going, okay, it's time for me to move on. This was enough is enough. It's time for me to move on. So baby boomers who are at the top of the pyramid, so to speak, right now, who are at top of the food chain, they're going, maybe this was a kind of a sucky year and I don't want to do this too many times anymore. I don't know what's coming on with the new administration. I'll just take my money and go to the beach kind of thing. So they're transitioning over to those Gen X, the next generation, and to the millennials. What are some of the trends that you're seeing in that sense? I mean, I'm starting to hear that, but are you seeing that?
As far as the baby boomers starting to trend out and Gen Xers moving up in that pyramid,
that next generation to take over? It may not be this year, but it may be within the next couple.
I think so. I really do. And I think millennials are definitely, I mean, you think about it, these millennials, they're getting older now. And so they're definitely getting to that point where they're going to be in those leadership roles and start taking over for us. And I think that I myself am a Gen Xer. And so I take personal interest in the millennials to try to develop them. And I think one thing, and I know I told you I wanted to talk about this, but I think this is a good segue. I think one thing that the world is waking up to is the importance of a coach. And, one thing that I saw, thank you for saying that I just recently became a certified coach. I'm super excited. And I want to tell everybody
for you.
The reason that I did it was because of you, Coach Rick.
Oh,
you started my journey. And 100%, if we hadn't had that conversation at the mall, I think which one were we? It didn't matter. At the mall, that after business casuals networking event,
yep,
I wouldn't be here today. And so I thank you from the bottom of my heart for that. I really do, because it was such a journey.
That's what I believe leadership is all about, is giving back without really wanting anything in return. I'm happy to see you successful. I truly am. I'm really happy to see you do that. You took that journey. It was a simple conversation for us, and just sitting and having a conversation with a friend. And if you're able to take that and then do something with that, I think that's what leadership's all about, is giving without wanting and trying to help others, because it comes around. It absolutely comes around. I believe in both karma, good and bad. So if you give good, you get good. That's it. You give crap, you get crap. So that's kind of what it is. But that's a beauty. I think you're right. Coaching right now is going to be critical for the next generation to help them be there, because it's lonely at the top, right?
Absolutely.
Who do you talk to? You don't talk to your subordinates, the folks that you're leading, because then they go, maybe he or she doesn't have their stuff together. So all of a sudden, you now have to figure out how are we going to lead? Who do I talk to? And having a coach, I think you're right, and that's going to prep you and the people that you come in contact with for success in the future.
And I think that's what I was going to share. So one of the interesting things that I learned when I was going through coaching school is one of my peer coaches that was in my cohort, her company, which is a publicly traded company, very large company, sent her to this coaching school and paid for it.
Okay.
And the whole purpose of that was to bring that coaching model back and to teach that coach-centric model to their leaders and push that all the way down. And I was like, whoa, that's amazing. That's where I think we're trending. I can't tell you how many times I've talked to companies that are looking for coaches right now. That's part of the reason why I started my coaching journey, because those are my clients that I'm talking to that are looking for coaches, right? And so I think that as people recognize the awareness of the importance of a coach and what a coach truly does, I think that, and I really feel like the millennials are the ones who are really going to blow that wide open.
Sure. And the beauty when we created the Emerging Leaders Academy at the Peak Performance Group, that was the mantra. It was all about servant leadership. And we wrap up the program. It's a 3-year program. We wrap it up with teaching the coaching as a leadership model, coaching for performance. How do you use a coaching model? And those listening, coaching model is much different than a command and control model. It's really about empowering the people around you. So if you're looking for someone to empower your people and you're listening, get a coach. And you can call us at the Peak Performance Group. Heck, call Casey at VIP. I give away stuff that says, hey, and she's going to give us her information as well. So she's available to coach. She knows the industry. And get someone that can help you and your leaders take it to the next level. So when people are searching for leaders, and this is something that is just really interesting to me, because I'm watching through my work with the Emerging Leaders Academy as the dean of that we're seeing a lot of millennials, and I deal with a lot of folks in that millennial generation. Mm-hmm. It was the Gen Xers, they're all the VPs, EVPs are coming. They've owned their own companies. They're there. And my generation, the boomer generation, sadly, yes, I'm that old. It's
I would have never guessed.
Yeah, I know. I only look that old. It's what we're really doing is we're letting those millennials are now taking those supervisory roles, those director roles, those next roles that are coming up, and preparing them for that. So as we do that, and I'm seeing them move different companies. I've seen people come into the program, get promoted, move companies, get recruited away, all of that in the industry. So what are some key things that employers should look for when they're searching for they should always search for a leader. Mm-hmm. It's not just a body to fill a spot, but what do they look for in their search? What would you recommend?
So I would ask them, first of all, what their leadership style is. Do you engage your people? How do you manage? And if they're like, well, it's my way or the highway, that's probably not somebody that's really going to work, especially with the millennials. Millennials are not going to put up with that, right?
Sure.
And I would ask them to give examples of what they've done with their team and how they've guided them to success, not what the numbers were, but how they got there, right? What is your process? Because that is so important. And I would also ask questions to kind of figure out where they are presenting from as a leader. So for example, do they present from a place of service, or do they present from just everything's going to be fine, no matter, it's just going to be fine, silver lining everywhere? Or do they embody that acceptance of everyone? Look at those different levels of leadership. There's 7 levels. I'm more than happy to talk more about that, but it's so important about how you show up. And I will tell you, after going through this coaching program and learning about these different levels and learning that you can be at choice with these levels, it was crucial to me. And a funny story, I had one of my coworkers had sent me an email, and man, my head was about to explode. I was like, no, you didn't, and
don't you love those emails?
The old Casey would have been like right back at you, and I thought, okay, how do I want to show up here? Which level of leadership do I want to show up here? Do I want to show up angry, which is the level 2? Or do I want to show up in service, acceptance, everything's going to be fine? So I settled on everything's going to be fine and responded in a totally different manner than I would have in the past. And because I did that, the perception that I had, do I think he was wrong? Still, yes. But I still, instead of causing World War III in the office, which would have happened if I'd have responded the way I was going to originally, it just kept it even kill. It solved the problem, and there was no World War III.
I think that's a great leadership trait to have as you look at it. Is I call it responding versus reacting.
Mm-hmm.
You know, are you going to react to a situation like that would normally tee you off and set you up, or tee you up, as they say, right? And where you're ready to that rocket, and you're off and out of here. Or do you go, let me think about this and respond to this appropriately? Let me think, what's the best way to present an answer or a response, not a reaction? And there's times for reaction. There's always a time for to be able to react at times. But I think a response really has something that you put some thought into, and it shows that you care.
Absolutely. And I think as a leader, if somebody were interviewing me for a leadership role, that's the question I'd want them to ask. How do you show up when X happens?
That's a great question. For those that are listening, think about that. When you put some challenging situations out there, how would you respond when X happens, something negative, something? Are you going to blow your gasket? Are you going to be mad? Are you going to walk around stomping your feet, kicking doors, and, I say, kicking your dog and slapping your wife kind of thing, or slapping your dog and kicking your wife? I don't know. But, how are you going to respond? And physical is bad. I know that. I'm just being facetious. But you think about it, is how are you going to respond to the situation, whatever that might be? Hell, you pulled over. How do you respond? Mm-hmm. We've all been pulled over. Pretty much all of us have been pulled over at one time or another. I know there's a couple out there, probably angels driving. I've got your share of them pulled over, right?
I cry.
What do you do? We see people that get angry and mad. Hey, why are you pulling me over? You're profiling me, or whatever it is. Or you see, hey, I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right. I was probably speeding. Or, yeah, I did cross the double yellow line. Or, yeah, I know I did it. Damn, I'm sorry. Here's my license registration. Which way are people going to respond back to you? You get what you give. And as a leader, I think that's it. You get what you give.
Yeah. And I follow a philosophy, and I don't know if you've read this book or not, The Go-Giver.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Great book.
I give so many copies of that away. It's incredible. But I think that as a leader, this should be our philosophy, and there's 5 principles. And I don't know, I can't say them off the top of my head, but basically you give without expectation, right?
Yeah.
And you do it in large numbers, but you also have to be ready to receive. So when your people want to give something back to you, you have to be ready to receive that.
And be gracious about it. And that's the cool point. Yeah, there's a concept that I teach, I use in my coaching practice, where we call it the 100-0. 100-0. And it's all about personal relationships. Leadership, I think, is 99% personal relationships, and 1% skill sets. Really does. It's all about how you interact with people when you're getting to those leadership levels. 100-0 concept goes like this: give 100% to the relationship. And again, we think a relationship, we think of, spousal or, something, dating, that kind of. No, a relationship is a relationship. It could be work-based, it could be friend-based, it could be whatever. Give 100% of yourself. Love, joy, happiness. You give everything that you can give to that other person, expecting 0 in return. There's no expectation of anything in return. So what that gives, when you think about it and you peel it back a little bit, can I ever be disappointed in your lack of response? If I pour into you, and you just don't care, you don't pour anything back, and I expect nothing from you, can I ever be disappointed?
That's a good one.
So I can continue to pour into you because I don't really care or want or expect anything in return. But so the moment we begin to, and the world is a quid pro quo world. we give stuff back and forth. You go, I give you, I expect, hey, you give me a lead, I give you a lead, right? Back and forth. That's kind of the way the world works. I scratch your back, you scratch my back. But if you begin to give without expectations, you start to see what happens is it begins to slowly turn. People are getting it, go, wow, he or she, you're really giving me a lot of stuff. They really take care of me. Maybe I should do something for them. Now, me, on my hand, I don't expect anything, but they in turn, maybe it's obligation, I don't know, but they will give back to you probably 10 times over sometimes.
It's always shocking to me because I feel like I do live my life that way where, my whole purpose in life is to give value first. That's my goal.
Mm-hmm.
Give value first.
That's
all I want to
purpose.
do. And so when it starts coming back to me, just like you're talking about, I'm like, whoa, I've really had to work hard at that, because I feel like if I'm receiving, that I'm taking away from my giving, and that's not the case.
Well, and the interesting part when I think about it, it's taken years too, because I'm the same way. I want to give. I really don't want a whole lot in return. I don't ask for anything in return. But if I say no to you and you're giving me something, I'm robbing you of the joy of giving to me because I'm taking away your joy. So if you look at it that way, say, well, I'm not really helping them because I'm not giving them the joy that they are going to have by serving in return. So that's a great way to look at it, I think. It's a perspective to have. So when we talk about leadership, because the Bald Truth Leadership Podcast is all about that leadership. What is it about leadership that you think makes or breaks an organization? What's a powerful concept that you could share? Maybe that on how to build better and stronger leaders. What kind of things would you recommend to the listeners where they can say, here's how to build a stronger leadership team? And what is it that makes or breaks an organization about leadership?
I want to start with that part first. What makes or breaks an organization when it comes to leadership? Because I've seen leadership at different levels, and I'm at the company I'm at today because of different leaderships, right? But leadership, I think the number one most important thing that a leader needs to do is communicate. Communicate what's going on with your people.
Okay.
Because if you don't, and I've seen this happen, and I'm sure you have too, when you leave holes in the information, people start filling in the gaps.
Yes.
And with misinformation, right? We call those writing scripts. And so much heartache, so much turmoil. And I've been guilty of this. It's very recently that I've learned to control that little monster in my head that says, they're talking about you because that door's closed,
I call it MSU. Making
MSU.
Shit up.
It's exactly what it is. I'll give you a perfect example. So one day we were sitting there and one of my coworkers, and I'm on a sales team. You know how we guys are on sales teams. We're like, it can be like this at times. But anyway, we love each other.
Competitive.
Yeah, it is definitely competition. And I had a pretty big, this was before I learned to respond instead of react. So we had a pretty big blow up in the bullpen, and that means we're in the middle of everybody, right? And I was like, I'm right. And so the next thing I see is my coworker go into the big boss's office and shut the door. And I'm like, guess I better get my box. I immediately went to the fact that I was about to get fired because I fought with one of the big billers, which totally wasn't the case. They weren't even talking about me. So it's amazing how much we think that people are talking about us when we're really the least important people in the room, right?
They really don't. They don't care. It's funny, but no, they don't care.
And so that was kind of a tangent on that, but I think cool. That when leadership communicates and doesn't leave those big gaps for people to fill in, it really helps tremendously to cause an adhesiveness within the organization and helps to, further that teamwork. I'll give you another example real quick. Another personal example, we had somebody leave, and this is really what kind of transformed our communication within our office. We had somebody leave, and the reason on their exit interview they said they left was because they wanted a leadership position and they weren't getting it. But number one, they never asked for it. And number two, the leaders didn't ask what they wanted.
Oh.
And so it caused this person to leave. But here's what I love. The leadership said, this is a problem and we're going to fix it. Called everybody, all hands on deck in for a meeting and said, we don't want this to happen again. If you want to do something and it's not what you're doing now, talk to us. If we can make it happen here in the company, great. If not, we'll help you find your next home. And everything has changed since then.
See, that's open communication, I think, is it. So in your mind, what are some steps that a leader can take to implement that? The better communications. What are some things they can do? Some tactical, practical things.
So first of all, don't assume just because you know something that everybody knows it. Okay. You've got to push that information down. You don't have to have meetings every single day, but if there's something big going on in the company, find a way to announce it, even if it's just an email, right? But keep your people informed. There's nothing more surprising than you show up at work and there's somebody new next to you, right? Make those announcements, share that information, share where the company is at as much as you can, without, jeopardizing your financials or anything like that. But number one, I would just implement a communication policy. How much information are you comfortable sharing? How are you going to share it? And then put it in place. Good.
There's some good tactical things. So now we all know that we've lived life and we've had ups and downs in our lives. This is something I'm always curious about when I see successful leaders in the world like yourself, is sometimes we get kicked in the shins. Mm-hmm. Right? So when you have that defeat, how do you get past it? So for you, what was your worst defeat? I'm not going to throw you down to the bus too much, but how'd you get past it? And is there a regret on getting there? What do you think? What have you learned from defeat or getting knocked down?
So I'm trying to think, because I've been knocked down a lot, actually. I think that probably my biggest lesson is to not stay there too long, is to not dwell on it. I'm trying to think about how to say this without giving away too much information, but there was a person that was in my life that was not beneficial, and I didn't know that, and was, so anyway, there was a bad influence on my life, and I did not realize what a position of hate this person was coming from, and like chipping away at my career without me knowing it, because I trust, if you tell me that this is who you are, I'm going to believe you until you prove otherwise, right? And even when you try to prove otherwise, I might be like, that's not really you, and that's a fault, but it's also a good thing that I have, right? I'm very trusting. And so I was very trusting of this person until it was almost too late, and it almost cost me my career. But as soon as I realized what was going on, that person was cut out of my life completely and moved on, licked my wounds. I was sad because I thought I had a really good friend.
Mindset. Was it a mindset shift? What was the shift? And I've talked a lot about mindset in the past on some other episodes in the past. I think mindset is really critical for leaders and anybody who wants to be successful. What is it about mindset that helps you get past that challenge?
I think mindset is everything. I talk about mindset a lot on my podcast as well. And I think that everything starts with mindset. You've got to get your mind right. And so first of all, when a defeat happens, forgive yourself, right? You can't change it. You got to forgive yourself so that you can move on. And once you forgive yourself, get it in your head that yes, that happened, but it doesn't define who you are going forward. You have the right in each moment to choose who you're going to be going forward. And if you want to choose to be that victim or whatever it is you felt from that defeat, then that's where you're going to stay. But if you want to choose to learn from that opportunity, then you're just going to go up and up and up.
I love that, because I use the term is, just because you failed at something doesn't make you a failure, because failure is a verb and not a noun. It's an action, not a descriptor. So yes. I had somebody actually quote me on that one. Failure is a verb, not a noun. And that was when I got a reply back on some response critiques I did on some of my programs. I used that, and that was huge. I love that. So it didn't define who they were. It just said what happened.
Mm-hmm.
And that's awesome. I love that. So you've got a podcast. I want to talk about that because I want to be conscious of your time, et cetera. But you've got a podcast. Tell us about the podcast and where we can hear it and where we can find more out about you.
So I definitely want to kind of go back to what I said earlier about what my purpose in life is, and that's to give value first. And I'm so fortunate that my company is aligned with that purpose, because the podcast was developed to give value first to our job seekers and to our clients looking to build better cultures. The podcast is We Are VIP. And it is our company podcast. We love doing this for you every single week. And we've had some fantastic guests on there, including Coach Rick. So we would love for you to check us. And you can also go to our website, wearevip.com. And then you'll find our podcast launching page there. And you can find me all over LinkedIn. That's where I live.
LinkedIn, that's perfect. Of course, as a recruiter, that's a perfect place to be. So folks, look below, you'll see us streaming, wearevip.com, and we'll have Casey's name up there for check her out on LinkedIn. Connect. I'm sure she'd love to connect with you folks. Casey Hasten on LinkedIn. So check her out. She will help you find your next leadership role. I guarantee it. And on top of it, coach you to get there as well. Casey, it's been awesome. I've got something though. I'm going to throw a little curveball at you today. You didn't see this one coming, I'm pretty sure.
Bring it on.
But you know what? Here's the quid pro quo. You did it to me, I'm doing it to you. I've come up with 3 bald truth questions. Coach Rick's bald truth questions. And you don't know they're coming, and here they come. Fast pitch down the middle. Here it is. You're holding a dinner party for 5 people. You're not including yourself, 6 people, including yourself. You get to invite 5 people, but you get to invite 5 people, anyone in all of history, alive or dead. You get to invite 5 people in all of history, alive or dead. The only caveat is they can't have not been born yet. So anybody you want, who do you they can't be future. Anybody in all of history up to this moment. Who do you invite and why?
Okay. So Jesus Christ, because I think that he set an amazing example during his time here on earth. I'm going to invite Buddha as well, so that I get a different perspective.
Okay.
I want for sure to have Hal Elrod there, because 2 people, Hal Elrod and Mel Robbins, because both of them in combination really helped me transform my life. So Miracle Morning and the 5-Second Rule, those 2 books together just jump-started me. And then my 5th person would be my forever man, Steve Rutherford.
Oh, that's awesome. Good choices. So second one, number 2, they're writing an article about you after you're passed. We all have an expiration date. We know that. But after you're gone, they're writing an article about you. What's the title?
She gave value first.
I love that. That's awesome. And what do you do every morning to set yourself up for success? Number 3. So what do you do that gets you ready for your day?
So this one is easy, because it goes back to Miracle Morning and 5-Second Rule. I have a morning ritual every day that I do, but the 2 non-negotiables of this morning ritual are meditating and journaling. And in my journal, that's where I do all my gratitude, my, mood, where I'm starting the day, my intent for the day. And I also write out my schedule for the day. And yes, I write it out, everything that I have to do, because it just helps me see it better in my head. Excellent.
Great. Casey, thank you for being on The Bald Truth. It's great to see you and hear you for those listening. Thanks for spending some time with us today. So tell us again, how can people get a hold of you or learn more about you?
So the easiest way to get a hold of me is on LinkedIn, and I'm just simply Casey Hasten.
All right, Casey Hasten, look down below. It'll be listed down there on LinkedIn, folks. I appreciate you being here. It's going to have a great weekend. We're out of here, folks. And that's The Bald Truth.
You've been listening to The Bald Truth with Coach Rick of the Peak Performance Group, the company that helps people and organizations reach their potential. If you're looking for a way to grow your organization, whether it's sales or strategic direction, the Peak Performance Group coaches can help you grow with their proven business acceleration process. Call them at 817-748-7425 or go to mypotentialplus.com and they'll connect you with the right coach for you. And remember to subscribe and like below. The Bold Truth Leadership Podcast is available on iTunes, Spotify, iHeart, and YouTube video. Hit like and subscribe to get every episode. Thanks for listening to the Bold Truth Leadership Podcast. And until next time, roll up your sleeves and get to work, and you can make things happen.
I'm Coach Rick, and that's the Bold Truth.